Hi goddesses, so today we are going to do the splodging video, hurrah! Now first of all, it's a bit rainy, a bit horrible here in the UK. My voice is a little bit I'm a little bit asthmatic today as well, so if I do splutter during the video, apologies. I'm going to go through a couple of basic rules first of all though. You'll see that I've already painted my paw white. I always either paint it white or I paint it with the palest colour that I'm going to use. Today, because I want to use some quite poppin' colours, I've gone for the white base, but if you were going to do a splodge manicure that was 4 different shades of blue, then I would just do the base, the palest blue, and go from there. So we have 4 colours. I've got 3 OPIs, which are Monsoon or Later, Hot and Spicy, Strawberry Margarita, and then one of the China Glaze City Flourish polishes, which is Metropolitan. Now, most of the times when I splodge, I use creams. It's a bit like the rules of a gradient, but you can experiment a little. You can use hollow. You just have to understand you're not going to get a massive hollow effect. Shimmers work really, really well. You tend to get a lot of bang for your buck with the shimmer. Glitters I tend to avoid, but textures can add just that little bit of extra grittiness to it. And also if you want to use a matte polish in there just as a contrast, that looks great as well. However, the one problem with using a matte polish is that usually for your manicure to really, really pop, you're going to want to put gloss on it, so mattes don't always work. Right, I'm going to show you what I use first of all. So we all know about the cosmetic sponge triangles. I haven't got a whole one on my desk, but basically they're a bit bigger than this. Now what I do as I use them for gradients is I start chopping them down until eventually I end up with, in my little tin, these miniature size versions, and this is what I use to do my splodging with, because for splodging you do not need big sizes of sponge. So that's what I'm going to use. These have clearly been in there a while because they've gone a little bit yellow, but I'm just going to nip that bit off, and then what I'm also going to do is take this bit and cut myself a slice, and then just take that bit off as well. And who knows, we might want this bit as well, so hey, we might as well do a little bit of priming with those ones. Okay, the other thing that you'll need is a pair of tweezers and a blob and mat, because the easiest thing that I found is that you use your tweezers to dab comme ça. Okay, so let me just continue waffling while I move some of this out of the way, and then we'll get started. Now, although I've put a white base on already, I absolutely haven't glossed it because it doesn't need glossing. Well, sorry, I have not top coated it because it doesn't need top coating, and I've got this box as well to show you things a little bit more easily. So you can just about see the blobbing mat as well. Now, the number 1 rule for me is you start with your darkest colour, and the reason you do that is because if you start with your darkest, you can then overlap it with paler colours. If you start with paler colours and have your darkest colour as the one on top, you then end up with the darkest one just overpowering everything. Okay, so just keep your eye on the blobbing mat. Now, like a gradient, we're going to dip the sponge in the blob, but we need to get a little bit of it to run off before we add it to our nails. Okay, so I'm just going to smudge in a couple of places and keep doing this. And what I want to try and do is make sure that I do it in different places on different nails, just to get a different effect. It doesn't matter how well I do it, whether I get it in the wrong place, because we're going to just keep going over it and over it and over it until we get it perfect. Now, this isn't probably the best way to do it, but I'm just going to scrape off. I had a couple of bits of punge stuck there. Right, I'm going to go for the pink next. So a big blob on my blob and that. And what will usually happen is that you'll go through all 4 of the colours, and then you'll go, oh right, I need a little bit more of this colour here, a little bit more of this colour there, and you'll end up going back over them. Now, I personally am very happy for each nail to look totally different. So it's not important to me to get any kind of uniformity at all. I know some of you feel slightly differently though, and with this kind of manicure you can make sure that you get every nail to look roughly the same. It will never look exactly the same, but you could place your blobs in the same places if you wanted to, but I don't. I like them to look different. Okay, and then we pick up punge again, and now we dab a bit more on. It's quite good as well to get a colour in there somewhere which is a real contrast. That's why I've gone for the yellow, because you'll see in a minute that it will really make it pop. I think you all know very, very well that I'm not a fan of yellow polish, but when you're doing this type of manicure, it really is kind of one of your best friends. It really adds another dimension. Okay, so we're going to add the yellow splodges in now, and then we're going to take stock of where we are, and really that's all this is. It's basically a micro gradient. That's all we're doing here. We're taking tiny pieces of sponge, and you can even take sponges that are smaller than these ones, and we're just adding bits of colour to our nail. Unlike a gradient, you don't have to check that it mixes in perfectly. One of the things I love about splodging, and kind of why I started doing it, is that it's one of those types of manis, sorry, let's get back in focus, that you can do where there is no right or wrong. So it doesn't matter if you make a mess, if you overdo it, if you need to redo it, because it really just doesn't matter. Okay, I'm just going to get, we'll see if I can get those bits of sponge off. Okay, so that's what we have on the first run through then. Okay, so we can see all the colours, but again, a bit like when you do just one coat of polish, none of them are massively defined. I feel I can see the orange quite well, but I certainly can't see the pink as much as I would want to. So that's the first thing that I'm going to go back over and add more in of. I never go back in and add with a brush or a dotting tool. It's always still with the sponge, because otherwise you're going to affect the saturation of colour that you've got. So really all I want to do with the pink is make it a bit bolder and actually bring it back into the fray on a couple of the nails. And you'll easily be able to tell which ones you want to do that for, easily. Okay, and then we'll do some of that there. This is the only disadvantage of using a white base. If you can see that there's quite a bit of white around the edges, so we need to be able to either tidy those edges up or clean them up so that they don't look like that. Right, I do want more red in there, so let's go and do a bit more red. And it's really then just a case of playing with it until you've got the colour mix that you want. I'm not going to go on and on at this endlessly because you've kind of got the point. And then there's one more thing that I want to explain to you at the end. Okay, that looks better. Okay, so there we've got quite a nice tutti frutti thing going on. And again, we'll try and colour some of those edges in. You can see here where my sponge has started to get too dry. It's crumbling. I know a lot of people, when they use a sponge, they wet the sponge first. Now I've never done that. I might try it though, and it's supposed to stop all this shredding. Okay, and then once more with the orange. If we need to, we'll do another bit with the yellow, but then we're pretty much there. Also, these are really, really nice summer colours. I think the best one of these I ever did was a tape mani, where over the top I did blue, turquoise and green, and that really popped quite a lot. That's quite good. Okay, just a final bit of yellow and then we're there. So, no great science to the splodge. I've seen a lot of people using this lately. I like to think that I invented it. I did it about 2 years ago. I think sometimes we get very precious though about who started all these things and whatever. The important thing is, does it encourage you to paint your nails? If it does, hurrah, I don't really care who takes credit for it. But if you've seen Christina at Let Them Have Polish doing these recently, you'll have seen she's done some quite nice effects. And I think I've seen Jen at the Polishaholic copy her as well. And again, that looked quite nice. Sorry, I feel I've overdone that yellow, so I'm just going to dirty it up. Okay, so that is my splodge. It is quite messy. It doesn't have to be as messy as that. The advantage you've got as well, if you're using the palest colour as your base, is that you then don't need to splodge with it unless you've gone too far and you need to bring the whole mani back into line. One of the reasons I love splodging as well is they make a great base for stamping over and all other sorts of nail art as well. For stamping manis, they're great. Now, let me just do a bit of shaking off camera so that I can show you this, because for some reason, although a lot of us have used this for quite a while, we seem to be talking about it a lot lately, and I don't know why. So I wanted to show you this if you've not come across it before. This is the famous Northern Lights top coat by Out the Door. As you can see, it's got the finest holographic sparkle in it. Christina from Let Them Have Polish uses it on top of a lot of her manis. It does give it that indefinable fairy tone, and for something like this, it's a really good thing to add on. So I'm not going to do all the nails with it, but if I just try and show you on the thumb, and I've got one of these in a gold as well, and that should show you then the difference between a nail that has been top coated and a nail that hasn't been. Let me move that out of the way. So you can see the colours start to bleed together a little bit more, and they look less obvious than they did on the stamp nail, on the splodged nail initially. Okay, so there we go. That's where I'm going to leave it for now. I'm going to close the camera down now, and I'm going to add the super sparkly Northern Lights to all the nails to make it look pretty. Now that I've done this manicure, I won't waste it, so I'll do something else on top of it. Not quite sure what that will be yet, but my new Moyo tropical plates arrived today, and well, I wanted to use that one, but that's gonna just cover it up too much, so I'll have to see if I can find one that's perfect. But anyway, seriously, this is one of the easiest things you can do. You can't go wrong. If you put too much on of one colour, you can just go over it with another. There really is no way that you can mess this up. So I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the other side in the blog post. Bye for now.